and we'll get started. Come on. Okay. Right. So I can tell you what my first slide says without even showing it you, which is that, oh, where has it gone, my slide? Here we go. Yeah. Which is that I know this is one of the most sort of challenging times in your child's life and, you know, in your life really with your child. And it takes a lot of thought and preparation to think about secondary transfer. And I also appreciate that this year's particularly challenging because what I'm going to ask you to do is lots of research and try and find out as much about the secondary schools as you possibly can. But I'm really aware that that's going to be quite tricky in some situations because not all the schools are going to be open. I think there's going to be lots of online kind of material and stuff like that. But as we go through, I can talk about that, and you'll see that some schools are open, are going to try and do some guided tours, some are not. But really, I'm just going to try and give you an overview, explain to you what we know about the secondary transfer process from our end, and just try and make sure that we tell you about some of the schools in the local area that you might want to investigate. Now, it's sort of good news and bad news, the next bit, which is that 90% of residents in RBKC were offered one of their preferred schools, but 10% weren't. And so if you, hopefully, I think we did better than that at St Thomas's. Hopefully, if you do follow the advice that I'm giving you, and you do lots of research and really think about the schools that you could apply for your children, hopefully most of you, virtually all of you, will find a school that you're happy with, and your child will be happy this September, following September. Okay, so research is the key. Get to know the schools. Look at local authority websites, not just Kensington and Chelsea. You should have received a hints and tip booklet. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but it's this one. And that has lots of information about the schools in this borough, and it tells you all about the open evenings. But honestly, if you literally Google Hammersmith and Fulham admissions or Kensington and Chelsea admissions, you will get to the webpage incredibly easily, and it lists there all the schools, and then you can click in and you can find out all the details about the schools, what nights their open evenings and their open mornings are on, and you can find out about all the particular criteria that the school requires. I think that's quite useful. The other thing I just want to highlight to you here is that if you are struggling, you can talk to me in South, Mr. Jones, but you can also phone the admissions team in the local authority, and I've put the number here for you and also given you the email. We will post these slides up on the admissions page on the school website, and INSAF will send you a little reminder link over the next couple of days, so that you can access information that we have, and we'll pop updates up on that page as well. So hopefully that's will be a useful forum for you to look at. So this is an interesting one. Some of you, I'm sure, who I'm talking to have got children already at secondary school, and you'll know about some of these misconceptions. But there are sometimes some ideas that people have about how this works that are just not true. So some people think that they might receive an offer at their nearest school. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily true. It depends on the admission criteria of the school. Some schools do use distance from the school as their criteria, but some, it's about church attendance, it's about certain aptitude tests and all sorts of other things. So it's not necessarily the case, but generally, the schools that are closest to us are the ones where we're most likely to get places. So you will get a place at one of the schools you name on the form. Not necessarily true, especially if the choices that you make are not realistic choices. You know, for instance, if you have a boy and you put down Cardinal Vaughan and you're not a Catholic and your child doesn't attend a Catholic school, that's a wasted choice. You'll see when you look at the application form, which I'll talk to you more about in a minute, that you get 6 choices. And it's really important, I'm going to keep saying this, it's really important that you try and name as many schools as possible, at least 3 and ideally 6 schools. Okay, some parents imagine that if you put a certain school at the top of your list, you get a choice, you rank the schools that you want in order from 1 to 6, and then you imagine that maybe if you put a certain school as the first choice, you'll have a better chance. That is not true. The way it works is that the schools have no idea who you've put first. So you're just offered places at all the schools, and then the computer just offers you the first school that's on your list where you've had an offer. If if you get an offer. Okay. Some people imagine that if their child has special needs or there's a medical or social reason that they might get a place at their first choice school. It's possible, but it's not necessarily true. Again, if your child has special needs, then you need to talk to Miss Stevens if they have an education and healthcare plan, and she will work with, that's a different application process. If your child has a medical or social reason, that can be things like maybe you might think that if your child had hearing impairment, that's sometimes been one that's been possible. Then there might be some schools that have better acoustic treatment. And so you might be able to argue that they should attend a certain school because of that. So you'd need to get a letter from your doctor. Unfortunately, there are no reasons that they don't listen to what we as schools have got to say about this at all. So unfortunately, asking us to write a letter about with a particular reason isn't going to be something that's possible. Our letters are not accepted, I'm afraid. So I'm sorry about that. Right, those are the misconceptions. Now, is there anything here? Where can you get the booklet? They should have been sent home. Yeah, so I think INSAF's addressed that one. Okay. Right, let's have a look what else we've got. Right, so the application process is made from the borough where you live and pay council tax. Just to be really clear about this, they will check this out. So it has to be the main place a child lives, not where, say if you're a couple who are split, it can't be, if they just see one parent less of the time, it can't be that place. It has to be the place where they mainly live. So if they go to Granny 1 or 2 nights a week, it can't be Granny's place. It has to be the place where you mainly live. And honestly, they do check, and they have an investigation team who go out and they do look into this if they think there's anything suspicious going on. So please, you need to be really straight up about that, or else you can lose your place. And I've known it happen. So it's best if you have to put your council tax number on there as well when you go in and do your application form, so they know exactly where you are. Just because you're making the application from this borough, or maybe you live in Westminster or Brent, doesn't mean you can't apply to Kensington, Chelsea or other boroughs. So in London, we have a pan-London application system, and that means that you can you apply through your home borough, but you can apply to schools in any borough in London. If you're thinking of moving out of the area and maybe you're moving to Bristol or somewhere, then you would have to wait until you move before you can apply. So really, at the moment, if you're living in London, you apply through the pan-London application process. As I said before, you can name 6 schools on the application form, and I'll show you where the link is to the application form in a minute. And I've already mentioned this, that all your preferences are treated equally by the schools. It just depends if you meet their criteria or not. And it's really important that you do put your preferences in the order of what you really wish your child to receive a place. Don't try and be tactical. Just put your favourite school down first and your least favourite at the end. It's really important, though, that you do put some of the schools at the end who maybe you're not very keen on. And you might be like, over my dead body, I don't really want my child to go to that school. But what we found happens on some occasions, if you don't put down some of the more local schools, so then what will happen is you will be allocated. If you're not successful with your favourite schools, you'll be allocated a school maybe 5, 6, 10 miles away. And when we've seen that happen, you know, schools right down in Fulham or in Hounslow, and that's just unmanageable. So best to put down some schools that you're perhaps not quite so keen on, just so that you've got a stopgap there. From your child's point of view, they just want a school. They actually just are really happy to know they're going somewhere. I know you as parents are going to have a lot more anxieties and worries about it than that, but they really just want that school place. So it's really important that you do use those 6 options, and you make sure you really think about the schools and that you put lots of options down there, just so that we can make sure they get somewhere. Because what you'll find is the borough won't, just because you put two schools on the list and you don't get those 2 schools, the borough's not going to like push for you to be in those 2 schools. They will just tell you you've got to go to the school that's got a place, and that's all there is to it. And that's, you know, as I say, that could be a long way away. Okay, hopefully that explains that. Right, so application criteria. There are lots of different criteria depending on the kind of school that you're applying for. So, for instance, some of the church schools that we got, and I will talk about some of the schools and what their criteria are in a minute. But some of the schools we've got around here are, it's all about church attendance. It might be, sometimes it's about if your child attends a church school, which is good because you're in one. Sometimes it's about how often you go to church. In some cases, it's going to be, at some of the really, really, really highly popular schools, it's going to be how involved you are as a parent. And it might be that you have to be on the PCC of your local church. So you've got to really, it's not just a case of going every Sunday in some cases. So schools like Lady Margaret and Twyford really have very high expectations of what parents and families are doing with church. So they're good schools to apply for if you're very involved in your church community. Some schools have aptitude tests for things like music and the arts. So there's an aptitude test at Holland Park for art. At KAA and Chelsea Academy, there are aptitude tests for music. And it doesn't mean that you have to be brilliant at playing a musical instrument. If you look into it a bit more, my understanding is it's about how good those children are with rhythm and pitch and tone. If you look on the school's websites individually, you can find out a little bit more if you think that that might be something you want to put your child in for. And it's quite a good way of getting into the school without having to live really close to the school or attend church. So that might be helpful. Another thing that it's really useful if I tell you about is that some schools have what are called banding tests. And what this means is that your child will go for a test at the school sometime during the autumn term, and I'll tell you the dates of some of those tests in a minute. And when they go for those tests, what they're looking for is to make sure the school is truly comprehensive, i.e. it takes children from a range of abilities. So when they do the test, they'll probably give them band A, B, C, D, A being the highest band, higher attaining children, and D being the lower attaining children. And then what they'll do is they'll effectively run 4 waiting lists, 1 for each band. And your child will be on whichever waiting list of the band that they got into. And then they will take maybe, say, 50 children from band A, 50 children from band B, and so on. And that will fill them up with 200 children. So schools that do that banding tests are schools like Holland Park, Cardinal Vaughan. Also, I don't know if anybody's interested in Hammersmith Academy, I think it's called. They do a banding test too. And then once they're in that band, I should just add, then we move on to the idea about distance. So what they'll then do is rank the children in each band in terms of distance. And I'm going to show you an example of that now. So if we have a look here at Holland Park, I found this on the borough's website. The children who are in band A for Holland Park last year, this is the reach. This is the area that the band A children were in. So you will see that they were incredibly close. This is Holland Park Avenue. This is Ladbroke Grove. There's Holland Park School. That's Kensington High Street. So you see that you have to live incredibly close. If you're a high attaining child, you've got to live super close to the school. Then here's band B, and you'll see at band B, we're getting a little bit more over towards Shepherd Bush Roundabout. It's a slightly bigger area. Unfortunately, nowhere near, excuse me, St Thomas's. Then we've got band C, which again is a little bit bigger. So, and band D, which covers an even wider area. So with Holland Park, the banding test enables you, if you're a lower attaining child, you've got more chance of, if you live far from Holland Park, you've got more chance of getting in. So it's just worth being aware that, as I say, they run the bands and then they run the distances. As I say, I found this on the website, and it's also, you can find the hyperlink within this document, which I will save for you. So yeah, that's always a bit vexing. There are other schools that just run straight distance. So here is Kensington Aldridge Academy. Let me get that one up. Okay. So this one does seem to be, we're in catchment for this one. So they have a priority area which covers Kensal Town and covers most of Kensington, North Kensington and Chelsea. And also they have then, this is approximately the area that they allocated to. So so KAA is a really good option for anyone living locally. That's a very good possibility. Okay, so Holland Park, not so likely unless you live near a Holland Park, but KAA, a good option. Okay, you'll also see that attendance at certain primary feeder schools is an advantage, and this one's a funny one, but Chelsea Academy, we are one of their feeder schools. So you've got a good chance of getting into Chelsea Academy. And I know parents in the past have said to me, what, Chelsea Academy? That's too far. It's too far. Actually, if you can get your child to a train station, for instance, the one at Westfield, or there's one up at Kensal Rise, then Chelsea Academy is a really good option because it's literally a quick train journey. And the school is only a couple of minutes from the train station. So Chelsea Academy is a really good option for us. And, I would definitely recommend checking it out. I'd recommend checking out KAA and Chelsea Academy and Holland Park. I think they're all really worth looking at. Okay. Right. Here we are. So here are the secondary schools in Kensington and Chelsea. We've got Cardinal Vaughan. Now that one, you have to be a boy, you have to be Catholic, you have to have church attendance, you have to attend a Catholic primary school, and you have to have been baptised. People, every year I find people put Cardinal Vaughan down, and there's just no point unless you meet all those criteria. Okay, then we've got St Thomas More Language College. We've never had anyone go there because it's quite far from here. So I just think it tends not to be a real option. And then one that is a real option is All Saints Catholic College, which was Simon Manning. And they've got a really fantastic new head there. He's been there about 3 or 4 years now, and he has turned that school around. It's now co-ed, so boys and girls can go there. We've had children going there for the last few years, and they're really happy. They've really loved it. We get lots of positive feedback from that school. We've had children come over to see us even this term already, looking smart and happy. And, they seem to have a really nice kind of nurturing way about them. They seem to be really kind and, just really encouraging for the children. So I think that's certainly another one I would investigate. As I said, we've got Chelsea Academy. I would definitely investigate that. They've just got a brand new head there. I think the previous head, he'd been there about 4 or 5 years. He did a really good job on turning that school around. And I think it looks like the new head is a very nice, positive person too. With Chelsea Academy, because we have a sort of special feeder arrangement with them, they're very happy to arrange tours. INSAF was telling me, I think, that they've been in touch already. So if that's something you're interested in, they would really like you to go down and meet them. I think that you can go around the school. I think it's the same with All Saints. I think they're offering tours as well as an online talk too. So again, look at their website, see what they're offering, and make sure that you investigate both of those two. Then, as I said, I would investigate Holland Park. They have the art aptitude test, so that's one way you can get in. And they also have you need to do that banding test with them. And then Kensington Aldridge, they also have some aptitude tests, but they also have, and then their distance. Excuse me. So they are all really reasonable options. I think the bottom 4 schools there are all really worth investigating. Right, other schools in the area which we tend to feed to as well. We occasionally send children to St Augustine's, not so much recently. Westminster Academy, we usually send 1 or 2 there. King Solomon, very occasionally there. That's a 2-form entry school, I think, but it's an all-through school, so it goes right through from nursery. So you can imagine most of the children just feed straight through into the secondary, but they have the odd place. And then in Hammersmith and Fulham, a popular choice for us is Burlington Danes. A lot of the children go there. We maybe have 6 or 7 children go there every year. So that has proved a very popular one. Again, that one's fortunes go up and down depending on who the head is. So again, I think you need to check it out and see. It's really important that you see if you feel that you're comfortable with the head teacher. So that's another one. I would definitely say investigate Burlington Danes. It's actually quite close to us. Hammersmith Academy, not so many children from St Thomas's go there. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1 every year, if not that, maybe even a bit less. Phoenix has been one that I think a lot of people put down as their just in case school, maybe in at number 5 or number 6 on their list. Again, that has variable fortunes. Sometimes it's doing really well, sometimes not so well. So you'd need to go and look at it and see how you feel about it. Then we've got Fulham Boys. There's a very, very strong head there, and that might be a really interesting option for some boys. He's very strict. and has very clear rules about and expectations, but a lot of high expectations for the boys. So that might be one to go and look at too. And then there are other church schools. They're Lady Margaret, Twyford, Marylebone boys, Marylebone girls. We perhaps get maybe one child in a year to some of those schools. They again require, as I said before, a lot of church attendance and a lot of dedication from the families, but are wonderful schools from everything I gather. They do a great job. So they're certainly worth considering. I haven't totally emphasized this point, but the church schools also require you to do a supplementary information form. So this is a form that you'll find on the school's website, and it will give you, it will ask lots of questions, probably mainly about your church attendance. But you do need to do the form, even if you don't go to church. So for instance, with Chelsea Academy, it's still worth applying and doing the supplementary information form, because even though you don't go to church, you do go to a church primary school. So you've got a good chance of getting in there if you don't go to church. And the same is for All Saints. Although it's a Catholic school, they are still letting in people who don't attend church. So again, those two are really worth applying for because they get right down their criteria. They're much more inclusive schools. Chelsea Academy actually deliberately, like St Thomas's does, it welcomes families who are not church attenders. So it's really, you've just got to look at those criteria really, really carefully. Okay. So just as I said, I would mention Holland Park's banding test is on the 21st of November. And you need to go onto the website and book your place. If you don't do the banding test, you won't get offered a place. Hammersmith Academies is really soon. You need to book by the 17th. What's today? Oh, today. You've got to book it today, okay? The test is on the 26th. Cardinal Vaughan and also Thomas More do tests as well, but I haven't looked at the dates for those ones because I don't think they're very good possibilities. So yeah, just be really aware of those banding tests. You have got to get your child along to the test, okay? Right, so just to give you a bit of an idea of the dates we're looking at, I'm going to show you the application form in the portal to get your application done in a minute. You've got to have your application in by the end of October. And my advice is get on there now, get yourself logged in, start putting your schools in that you think you're interested in, and then you can move them around as much as you want, but don't press send just yet. Go and do your research, really look around the other schools, and then press send maybe a week. So maybe the 20th of October, 23rd of October. Don't leave it till the last day because you might forget. We have had that happen. Parents have thought they've got all the time in the world and then they've just forgot to press send. So really important that you perhaps put a big alert in your phone for maybe a week beforehand to make sure you don't forget. The other one that was a really key day is National Offer Day, which is the 1st of March next year. On that day, at 5 p.m. in the evening, I think you can go on to the portal and it will tell you the school that you've got. If you've got any difficulties with that, we do get to find out at school, so you can ring us after 5 o'clock that day. The deadline to accept your places then is the 15th of March. So in terms of accepting the places, what will happen is you'll get your offer and you'll be offered a school. And my strong advice is to you to accept that offer, even if it's not a school that you like. What will happen is the other schools will still have you on their waiting list, any of the schools that are higher preferences. So say if you got your number 4 offer, number 4 preference, you accept that then you wait to see if any of the other ones start to offer you. And they will. The lists move around quite a lot because people come and go from the area, people choose private schools, all sorts of different things happen. So we find the lists move around quite a lot. And you might not get your favourite choice straight away, but if you sit it out, you might get it at a later date. We've also, we get to find out on the 29th where you are on the waiting list. But just to warn you, you might, if you're number 10 on the waiting list, you've got a fairly good chance of getting in maybe. But the problem is that those lists shift as different people come in and out of the system. You can appeal, but you'd need to look very carefully at the appeal process, and you would have to bring new information to the system. Again, we're very happy to advise you and support you in that process, but we can't, again, a letter from the school is not accepted anymore. In the past, I used to try and help people and write letters and say how deserving they were to get into a certain school, but now we're not allowed to write letters anymore. So, but obviously we will talk to you and help you if you need to write an appeal, and you think, and we can sort of give you some advice if we think you've got a good chance of an appeal. We'll try and help you look at the criteria. Some schools, literally no appeals work. Other schools, you can find out on the KNC website which schools you're likely to have more success with an appeal. But yeah, I think generally it's about hanging on in there. We've found some children have literally bought their school uniform and have turned up to their school on the first day of term, and then they've been offered the next day a higher preference. And so it's been a bit of an agony for parents about whether they swap or not. But as I said before, what I find is that the children are just happy to be in a school, and that's the main thing for them, is that they have somewhere to go. Okay, so you'll see here, this is the online application place. And if I just give that a little click, this is what it looks like. So this is the e-admissions page. So it is if you want to go log in, you just need to Google the admissions, or you can just put this in. It's eadmissions.org.uk. And you will see that most of you, if you applied to a primary school, you will already be a returning visitor. Okay. If you've already applied to a primary school, that's when the parents told me that yesterday. But if you're a first-time visitor, if you've never applied to a primary school through the system, then you click here and off you go. So that's just a really important place to know about. Right. So just to remind you again, 10% of applicants were not offered a school. So it's really, really important that you do this process, that you fill in all those options, that you don't just pick a one or two. The only time I can imagine that you might only pick one school is if they prefer siblings. So if you've already got the child in the school and you know you want you've already got an older child in the school, and the school does do preferences for siblings, you need to check it. So Holland Park does, for instance. If you've already got one child in the school, then literally you can just put Holland Park down because you know you're going to get that, okay? But other than that, you need to put lots of choices down. So again, as I said, research is the key. Looking at websites, looking at how places have been allocated so you can see if it's a realistic choice you're making. I think it's really important not just to listen to one parent's view about a school. You've got to make your own mind up. You've got to look at the website, at the Ofsted report, but not just the Ofsted report. That's why I'm saying research, go to the schools is really important. Now, I would normally say take your child with you, but I'm asking you this year not to take your child with you because I think it's not very safe at the moment, and we need to try and keep the children in the bubbles. I'm certainly not going to authorise anyone who wants to take their child in the day. That's not okay at the moment. I just don't think it's safe and a reasonable thing to do. But you as parents will be able to look and see if there is an option to take at all. And I really do feel that it's you as the parent who should be making this decision. Don't leave it up to your child. Obviously, you can hear what they're saying, but it's your decision. I think often children are led by which school their friend's going to and all sorts of things like that. So they don't really know how to make that sort of decision. They're children. You're their parent. You're the one who knows what's best for them. So I just think you have to really think about what's best for your child. If your child is a child who is quite individualistic and has lots to say for themselves and can be quite challenging, and I don't mean necessarily badly behaved, I just mean has a lot to say, they might not enjoy some of the schools because they're quite constraining. I often find that parents say that about Holland Park. So you've got to really think about what school's right for you and your child. I'm saying if your child is a more outspoken child, they might not enjoy some schools. So just be really thinking about that, what's right for your child. And as I said, don't leave it up to your child to make that decision. The other thing I would say is that, say if they think their friend wants to go to the same school, their friend might not get in. So then they're stuck, aren't they? So just you make the decision. I really urge you with that. Make those realistic preferences. Make sure you put lots of options down. Look at other boroughs too. If you want some support or advice, InStuff is there for you. Mr. Jones and I and Miss Briley are really happy to talk to you as well and see what we can do just to sort of talk through options. We really want to make sure that you make a good choice for your child. And if you're struggling with filling in the form, contact InStuff. She'll be able to help you work out how to go online and get the form done. I think that was everything that I wanted to say. I don't know if anyone has any questions, if you want to open your microphones, and if anyone has any comments. Hopefully I've kind of given you a fairly full overview, and just really encourage you to get out there and investigate. You might have more to ask us once you've been to see some schools. That might be a better time to come back and have a chat if you want to. You can sit, we'll always chat in the playground, and you can ring us or email if you want to have some more advice. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening to me gabbling on. I've gone at super speed there. Hopefully it was helpful and useful, and I wish you really good luck with this process, and let us know how you're getting on. Okay. Right. Thanks, everyone. Say goodbye.